Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. 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 Thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a meeting of Frome Town Council's Community and Place Committee. I'm Lindsay Mayhew and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. Just to remind everyone, we've got people online and here in the room. And for those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room and the assembly point is at the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right and there's an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Help yourselves to any refreshments, cups of tea, water are over there. Tonight, Peter Wall-Clark, Laura, Sian and Rachel will manage the minutes, question boards, participant settings and the IT generally. The meeting will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand, and for everyone else, ask questions through the Q&A board. First on the agenda, we have apologies for absence. Peter, have any been received?
Yes, from Nick Dove, Tracy Ashford, Lisa Merriweather and Ben Still.
Okay, can we vote to accept apologies?
Also, we have Fiona online.
Hello, Fiona. Okay.
So
And myself.
and
So Nita Collier propose and Andy Jones seconded.
That's unanimous.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have we got any declarations of councillors' interests on tonight's agenda? I was just going to say that we have a short presentation from Karen Bolus from Spark Somerset, of which I am running a Spark a Change project with her. So I thought I'd just mention that as well. Okay. Can we vote on the approval of the minutes from the last meeting on the 6th of May, 2026? Sarah Butler to propose and Mark Dorrington second. That's what got me confused, Steve. That's why I was
unanimous.
Pausing.
We're unanimous.
Yeah, unanimous. Fiona Barrows, it said. Okay, brilliant. Okay, we have got later on we've got a discussion about the tagging graffiti in the town, but other than that, have we got any questions and comments from the public or councillors in the room? Linka.
Is that on?
Yeah.
Hi, today I'm representing ARC and hopefully you've all heard of that. That's Frome Anti-Racist Communities Group. And all the councillors should have received an email a couple of weeks ago inviting you to a training session which happened last Wednesday. So we're a campaigning education group made up of residents, and Kathy's here as well from the group. And we've been leading some educational activities and conferences since then and supporting individuals in the community. Last Wednesday, we organised with Zari a couple of training sessions, and Emily Osler, the EDI lead with Frome Town Council, helped us to organise those. And so there was about 5 councillors that went to that, and also we had about 25 people together. So from different organisations, community groups, local shops, Frome Medical Practice, football club, rugby club, Cheese and Grain, so various venues. So, you know, that was our first session. It was a really, really great session, ASDA. all those sort of public spaces, you know, it was really successful. And since then we've had a lot of support with wanting to join in, and because we've got copies of our charter here if you'd like to see it. So these are actual posters that we're going up in those places. And the second session was an empowerment session. It was a lot of people from our group, and it was quite emotional, very honest and open. I think it's quite eye-opening for Emily joined that session. And those are experiences of Frome residents about what's actually going on. And experiences, all the people in the art group, most of the people in the group have experienced racism, all their families, all their children. So we're very grateful to Mark for giving us a mayor's grant for £300 because we've kind of been funding it ourselves, and we have planned a schools event with Melody. So we've also already had 6 schools sign up to that specific schools training in the autumn, because we really want to get into the schools and, get them out of the schools actually, and, just talk about support them and support the teachers, support the staff, and then therefore support the young people when these things happen. Sari they've said to us that they've actually shared that training sessions last week. They were really impressed, and they shared that good practice of how great it was for a collaboration between like community-led group with Sari and and town council. What we're here asking for today is support from Frome Town Council. So we'd like support because most of us work full time. And we'd love some support to adopt our charter, our poster, and support with comms too, because we want to get this out across the town. So I'd ask that, could that go to a full town council meeting, or?
Peter, could you comment on that?
We could certainly take something to the 5th of August meeting of council on that. So if you just let us have the details, we'll endeavour to bring that to council then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Fiona has a hand up.
Fiona?
So sorry, juggling the hand and the unmuting is a bit complicated. Thank you, Lenka. That was it was brilliant, really interesting, and really amazing what you guys are doing. I looked at that event. I'd obviously have loved to have come, but obviously can't at the moment. And I think it's really brilliant what you're doing, and it is completely in line with our values and our ethos as a town council and everything that we're trying to do. I mean, I think if you sort of put maybe a little bit more information as to what help you would like in writing to us, and we can have a look at it. It may be that we, if it is a little bit of help with comms, that we maybe don't need to take it to a full council. Obviously, that would be up to Peter, and I can have that conversation. But if you sort of send Peter and myself an email, we can kind of take it from there and see what we can do to help. I think it's an absolutely brilliant initiative, and I completely recognise that a lot of you are doing this in your own spare time at the moment and off your own back and out of your own pocket, and it sounds like it's incredibly needed in Frome and really valuable, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. I think it's just the main point would be to accept the charter and to visibly have it in venues and on your website, sort of like the White Ribbon campaign that you've done. So that's the main point.
I think if it is accepting the charter, that probably will have to come to a council meeting. So yeah, but if you could send some information over, we'll have a look at it and maybe have a follow-up conversation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant, no worries.
Also, I had hoped to come to that training, as you know, Lenka, and I was unable to. So good news, Lenka said there is going to be another training in the future, which more councillors can come to. That's right, isn't it? But I have to say, I was having a meeting next door to the training, and I just thought, when are people going to stop going in the room? It was like hundreds of people. I was like, how many people are in that room? They just kept coming in, like getting into a clown car. It was quite amazing. So I was really impressed the amount of people that showed up to find out more about that, and disappointed that I couldn't make it that time, but hopefully next time more of us can go. So thank you, Lenka. Okay, so now we're moving on to a short presentation about volunteering from Karen Bolus, who is the Development Manager for Spark Somerset. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Right, let me just get my notes up, please. Let's have a quick look. Okay. It all looks like it's going according to plan. So yes, hello. So I'm Karen. I've met some of you, but not all of you. So hello, I'm the Development Manager working with Spark Somerset and hosted by Frome Town Council. So today it's just really to discuss kind of what things have been happening in the last year. So this is a Volunteering for Health project. And let me just work one of these. Oh, did you say it has a lag on it, doesn't it? Yeah. Does it work? There we go. All right, so just 15 minutes. I'm going to give you an overview of the role that I've been in, the funding that we were given towards this role, the successful bids, so where we are right now. I'll give you a little bit of detail on a few pilots, and then there's some NHS funding as well, so I'll give you a little bit of detail on those 2 pilots, the other Spark offers, because obviously I'm in this role, but Spark has many other things that it offers, and the next steps for where we are. So just to begin with, yes, I've been in the role for 1 year, and Spark Somerset was awarded funding and was one of 15 organisations in the UK and chose Frome as its pilot area and Wincanton and the rural practice as its second area to trial volunteering for health. So the funding, therefore, was a 2-year project, of which I'm 1 year in. We have another year, and that's why we started off now with the funding that we were given, so it has time to play itself out and we can trial different opportunities and partnerships, etc. So it is a 10 million UK-wide programme being delivered through partnership between NHS Charities, NHS England and CW+. And I've written this down here. Well, this is off their website, just to be completely clear what Volunteering for Health does. And the aims are to create the conditions within local health systems for volunteering to thrive. It will test and build volunteering infrastructure through collaboration. And that is where I have most heavily been working within that particular sector. So what I've done to that aim is worked with community groups that work with volunteers and find the sticking points that needed support, where they needed support, look at where advances could be made and insights could be found. So I just started off the conversations with the local groups, some of whom you are here today, and we focused on a few areas which seemed to crop up as interest, necessary, gaps in provision and so on. One of them would be youth volunteering, increasing volunteer numbers in general, but also specifically getting to a wider demographic. Shared training opportunities for all the local community groups in Frome, shared marketing, collaborations, and volunteer passporting, which has been looked at. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. So as part of the project, we were awarded grant pots, and some of the local groups were approached to support intended outcomes and ideas. So those ideas I talked to groups about. We've made some decisions on where we want to go with it. And there were some ideas that we all came up with. And then other people had pitched in ideas to Somerset Community Foundation. So the available grant was 70,400, but it's split between the 2 pilot areas that I was discussing with you. So Wincanton and Frome. So the grants to date that we have given from this particular funding will be 35,000. And I thought I'd just run through what they are. So these were the successful grants, and either people have received them or they're pending, but they're kind of in the mix to be discussed and looked at. So at the moment, we've got Fair Frome to run a 9-month pilot, creating at least 20 new youth volunteering placements. So this is addressing the fact that we'd all talked about more opportunities for youth. And that's targeting young people for age 13 to 18. We've got Open Storytellers, which is also a 9-month co-led research project that's exploring barriers to volunteering for people with learning disabilities. And that project asks what organisations themselves need to change to make volunteering genuinely accessible, rather than simply encouraging more people to come forward. So it's an explorative pilot. We've got Frome Birth Talk on there, which is aiming to produce a shared volunteer training pack, and that goes toward the volunteer passport. How can one person start in one place and have the same training and then just transfer over to a different service, making it easier for volunteers and then easier for people to recruit volunteers? And they're hoping to allowing trained volunteers to move between Frome organisations serving families with children under 5. So it's a very specific age group as well. And then, as Lindsay mentioned earlier, the Good Heart is also part of the pilot. And in this particular instance, the pilot aims to create a space for face-to-face conversations about volunteering. So that's in the form of a broker role, offering and discussing existing roles that we've got online and what people want. So it's more like a feedback session as well, find out where we're going wrong, basically. How can we reduce the barriers? There is a second part to that pilot, and that is building on the work that Fair Froome do. The Good Heart will also provide a younger person's broker role to help younger people into those roles. So first we create more roles, then we create the manner with which the young people get into those roles. And so after discussion with younger people, it feels like they do need a mentor or someone to help them bridge that gap between approaching organisations. We've then got Cultivating Community, and that's in collaboration with the pod. And this project addresses breaking down barriers to volunteering. So the explicit focus in this pilot is to focus on disability, neurodiversity, and low confidence as participation barriers. So they're building an infrastructure, volunteering infrastructure with structured coordinator roles, induction, training, and supervision. So as you can see, there's quite a wide range, but all towards specific ends. The Field to Fork, obviously, the proposed project addresses a real and observed gap with 14-year-olds dropping off from family sessions. So it aligns with the goals of breaking down barriers to volunteering, again, building volunteer pathways and empowering communities. And finally, the Community Bike Project, which is aiming to support building volunteer infrastructure with a volunteer development project. So that's recruiting, supporting, and retain volunteers. So that's where we are to date with that particular funding, which is Somerset Community Fund. And when I'm going back to what we discussed at the beginning, when I talked to local community organisations, they said it would be good to do some shared marketing. So we already trialled at the beginning of this year, we trialled the Good Heart, we went to the DWP, Free Medical Practice, to talk to people about volunteering opportunities. And we took a poster and some leaflets, and we created a QR code, which basically, when you clicked on that, would take you to only Frome volunteering. So instead of like searching through, which of course is fine, people can do that, this is just like an easy option. You go on, you see everything in Frome. The fact that it's Spark Somerset is the backdrop, that is the kind of core infrastructure to the website, but that doesn't really matter to anyone who's looking for volunteering. It just needs to say volunteering Frome, which it does when you click on that. So we started to trial, like, how could people get more bang for their buck? If one person's doing a load of marketing, actually, if you use a shared QR code, which gets everybody on there, you are essentially giving everybody an opportunity to get their volunteering role seen. So we trialed that. We thought that was successful enough to continue with that idea, but also continue with the Good Heart face-to-face meetings. So people can come in and just chat about what they want and get a bit of an opportunity to talk through ideas. Whoops, a bit of a while. There we go. Gone back. Hold on, it flicked too fast. There we go. So with regards to younger people and getting more volunteer roles, I'm focusing just on these two because obviously, as I spoke about before, if you're creating the roles and making that structure easy for organisations to join and think, yes, I will. I was reluctant before, but I want to put a volunteering role up for younger people. You've then got to find a route to those younger people finding them. So that's where we're going further on this year with the funding. Now flicking forward. So then we had another pot of funding, and that you can see there, the total available for grants is 38,400. Of which the confirmed grant then is 21,000 to Somerset Foundation for an 18-month project. That's over in Wincanton. So we, at the moment, although we're seeking trustee approval, we're at the point of agreeing Frome having 17,000 of that. So the projects under that one then are hopefully Frome Medical Practice for Digital Inclusion Project. So that is where you go into an older person's home, somebody who's left hospital, who cannot, or for whatever reason is excluded because they don't understand technology. Somebody will talk them through it. That increases their ability to be able to use the NHS app and also be able to be connected wider, which reduces isolation. So we thought that was a really great project to have in hand. That's going to be working in collaboration with Age UK Somerset. So there's a bit of collab across the across Frome, and then finally we've got Sustainable Frome as part of this project, which has 20 nature prescribing services under one banner, which we hope at the moment would provide a really good support to those groups. So that would be recruiting, maintaining kind of relationships with those groups, making sure that their governance is all up to standard and helping each other. So that's kind of like another collaboration really at the end. It's a lot of talking, apologies. That's how it is when there's a lot of news. So going back also, people mentioned shared training. I won't go into the big detail on this, but we did find this fabulous bit of training, which if you go to this link, which can be sent out later, it's kind of like an opportunity for a volunteer to go on and get themselves some substantial basic volunteer training, which then you would turn up and say, yes, I've had X, Y, and Z on safeguarding, what it means to be a volunteer, you know, what my boundaries are, etc. And then people could, if they wish to, do their own personal service specific training on top of that. So there's an idea that, you know, if it were a case that we all agreed what that volunteer training would look like, this would be a super easy way for everyone to get to a certain standard before they even arrive in front of a service. So that's that. There were two other things to talk about, not in detail, but just the support that is available at Spark. There's an insights hub if you go online. Again, the link is on there, that you can get statistics, local information, just to help you support funding applications. So that's a really good one to look at. They will support you through it to understand how to use that particular online platform. And also just other volunteer support. If anyone hasn't signed up for their volunteer coordinator newsletters, they also have like meetings, forums and so on, so people can feel connected. That's like a jolly quick roundup, but I'm sorry it's so wordy. The next steps, we're just ensuring the pilots continue. There's good reporting so we can feed back anything good, bad, everything that people want to say about the pilots that they're in, how we could do better, increasing volunteering opportunities across Frome. And I think in the next quarter, specifically looking at impact and storytelling. So where people have really good value and worth, but it's really good to look at how they can tell that. They can tell it through the statistics, they can tell it through case studies, and just bringing that a little bit to the fore. And then working on collaboration as we were before with shared information, systems, resources and communication. So that's the next steps. That basically is a roundup of volunteering for health for Frome only. Thank you. And yeah, that's the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Does anyone have any questions for Karen on the project? Anne?
Is that on? Yes. How are we doing in comparison with our main competitor, which is Wincanton?
That's a good point. So I started earlier than Wincanton.
Competitor.
No, we'd never think that. So we started earlier because I was in post longer, and my colleague came in slightly later. So they have just a completely different set of services and a different way of connecting. So obviously our main aim here is to support the NHS in whatever way that is. So it's volunteering for health, but that, as we know, can mean anything. It's your own health volunteering, it's the people you're supporting, it's all of those things. So I focus more on the infrastructure because that's the easiest win for us as a whole community. But my colleague has been at the Balsam Centre. They have a very different project. So I had a little bit on, they've just put together 21,000 for a volunteering for health grant. So that is a part-time project volunteer coordinator for 18 months. I'm reading this out just because I asked to be clear on this. The coordinator will establish 3 community-based NHS volunteer roles through the Rural Network practice for volunteering for health. The project aims to support people stay healthy and independent by connecting them with practical help and community services. Now, at the end of that 18 months, there is a possibility then to identify opportunities to introduce these or similar to other parts of Somerset, including Frome. But it felt like it's best placed to start well there and then look at what we might need later if it comes to Frome.
So presumably this project is going to be rolled out to the rest of Somerset. So with Frome as the urban example, and Wincanton as the more rural example. Is that the idea? Is that why they've been chosen?
Yeah, I think they're basically very different in delivery, but also it's just what came up for services. So I guess the first 6 months was to find people, see what people wanted, have lots of conversations, and make sure that you're picking up the right cues, as it were, as to what people wanted, and feeding into volunteering for health. So there's a bit two things sitting together: what people actually need and how it can fit into a larger picture of more collaboration, more connected thinking, like the shared marketing and the shared ideas that we've tried out. And that one in Wincanton seems to have had more of a very definite NHS link. But this also, everything supports everything, doesn't it? So it all sits in the same thing. So now what we've got is, because it's a 2-year project, that one goes on slightly longer because she was in post longer, later. But and this one has a time now to play out these pilots so we can all learn. And then I think the answer to that question was, we then feed that back and say, this is what we learned, this is what we did, this is what we would have done better, but this is what we think is great. And see what then the rest of Somerset would like to do with that, because they're obviously developing vision for volunteering. And because they're doing that, this fits very well into us trialing all the things that in general makes volunteer great.
Thank you.
I hope that was a very long
Yeah, no, great. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming and telling us all about that. We look forward to hearing an update again in the future.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Okay, so now we're moving on to a very interesting discussion about the tagging and graffiti in the town, and how Frome Town Council, Somerset Council, and the wider community might be able to work together to tackle the problem. We've got a number of people coming, members of the public and Steve from Cheese and Grain, and to join the discussion, which we're all really looking forward to having. So going to set aside like 45 minutes for this part of the agenda. Rachel's going to
set the scene.
Yeah, and we're going to have a nice presentation as well. But what we'll do is, it's going to be a discussion. So Rachel will set the scene, and then we'll at the end of that we will come together and start discussing.
Yes. So
Okay with everyone?
can everybody hear me with this?
Janet
Yeah,
Jackson.
great.
Nick.
Jolly good. And two, if everyone's happy, I'm just going to stay sitting here so
Yeah.
it feels more like a discussion.
Yeah, and then we'll
Yes, I will try.
and the discussion question is going to be, what can Frome do as a town to improve the graffiti situation? Okay, thanks, Rachel.
Okay, so graffiti, and perhaps more importantly, tagging, really is a problem in Frome. So tonight's about starting the conversation, with us all included as the community, to try and find a path to a community-wide solution. Graffiti, and again, when I say graffiti, I really do mean tagging, is everywhere in Frome. It, without shadow of a doubt, affects how our town feels, how welcoming it is for residents and visitors, and ultimately how people perceive our town. It isn't unique to Frome, but it is becoming an increasingly visible issue here, and one that many residents, some of whom are here tonight, certainly have raised with us. So as a town council, we are in a slightly unusual position. We don't own most of the infrastructure that's being tagged. We don't have enforcement powers, and we don't receive funding for maintaining the public realm. However, because we do care about the appearance of the town, we've stepped in where we can. Just to set some context, Rob, our environment manager, who sadly couldn't be here this evening, spends a lot of his time thinking about graffiti, and you will see some of the before and then after pictures. So that was in November 25, and then I think if you keep going, we've got 6 months later, it just all looks like this again. And there we go, we've reset. That's just to prove that we do reset and do actually work quite hard where we can. Steve's kindly produced a number of pictures. I'm assuming that there are plenty of them here, if anyone will pass them around, of articles from presumably today, perhaps, or, over the last week. So there are a number of different pictures. So it is without shadow of a doubt a problem. So over the last years, we've learned a great deal about what works and perhaps more importantly about what doesn't work. Initially, we adopted what you might call a zero tolerance approach. That was very much the directive of our councillors, and Rob and his team worked really hard to try and do that. But as soon as the graffiti appeared, we'd remove it and repaint it. The town looked great for a small amount of time, but then there was an unintended consequence. Freshly painted surfaces almost became an invitation for new tags, and before long found ourselves in an endless cycle of repainting, or some may say a game that we were always going to lose. So now we've moved to a different approach. Rather than constantly chasing every tag, we carry out periodic resets. So that's what these are examples of. Usually before major events or after school holidays, where we can bring the town centre back to a really high standard before allowing a period of general maintenance. Rob says it's a pragmatic approach, but it still comes at a cost. To put that into context, every year we spend around 50 working days, the equivalent of a 20% of a full-time post, maintaining around 50 bins and utility boxes in the town centre. So that is just in the very small designated town centre area. Materials also cost around 3,000 a year, and perhaps most importantly, it's 50 days that can't be spent on planting, town centre improvements, community projects, and all the other amazing things that the Rangers do. The photographs in the report tell the story better than words. After the reset, the town looked great. 6 weeks later, 80% of those surfaces have been re-tagged. This is a cycle that just isn't sustainable if all we do is repaint. The report also makes another important point in that it isn't just FTC's problem. Somerset Council, who were invited tonight, I don't think we have managed to have anybody online, own much of the public realm. Utility companies own the junction boxes, businesses own their own shop fronts, residents own their own walls, the police have enforcement powers, community groups have energy and ideas. If we're going to improve this situation, it has to genuinely be a town-wide effort. We have looked at some positive alternatives that might exist. Education clearly has a role to play. The school were also invited to come this evening, but unfortunately weren't able to be. I believe that's unfortunately because we've fallen into the school holidays already. Reporting incidents is really important. The police were also invited tonight. Nick and Katie and Rob do have constant conversations with the police, and their advice is always to report. Graffiti is in fact criminal damage. We can't say it enough. The more you report it, the more chances we are to have resources to support preventing it. But they rely heavily on intelligence and reported crime to allocate any resources. But then perhaps more excitingly, there is also an opportunity to think creatively. Frome already has some great examples of public art, the Welsh Mill graffiti wall, to Victoria Park murals, and then to the Westway mural, which have transformed spaces rather than simply covering them up, and largely, says with fingers crossed and toes crossed, and this is not an invitation, but mostly have managed to get away without too much tagging. So one idea we've been exploring is whether we could create a utility box art trail, commissioning local artists to transform some of the most frequently targeted boxes into pieces of public art. This can celebrate local creativity and make the town centre a more interesting place to explore and experience. Elsewhere, the experience suggests that they are often also tagged much less frequently. Ultimately, though, there's unlikely to be a magic bullet to fix everything. The answer is likely to be a combination of everything: reporting, partnership working, education, targeted maintenance, positive creative outlets, and the hope that community pride will without. So that really leads us to our question. I guess some questions to the room around this very important what Frome can do as a town to improve the graffiti situation are, do you feel that Frome Town Council are focusing our limited resources in the right places? What can we do as a whole community? And then to think about those positive creative approaches that we could champion alongside the maintenance issues. So what can Frome do as a town to improve the graffiti situation?
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. For anyone that's not attended a town council meeting before, everyone gets a chance to speak. We, as Anita is demonstrating here, if you flag to me that you would like to speak, I will bring you into the conversation. Anyone who wants to speak does need to speak on a microphone. That's because we're being recorded and it helps online be recorded, and for anyone watching. And what else can I say? I was going to say something else. And oh, the other thing is, for anyone who, if everyone could just say who they are when they first speak, we'll get a sense of who has come here for the conversation. So, like for example, Anita will say that she's councillor, and then Chris from the Westway. If people could just say their name, and if it's just that you're a resident, that's also fantastic. Just say resident. That would be good. Okay, right then, Anita, let's kick things off. Hello.
Anita Collier, Town Councillor.
You're not on.
Your mic's not on. Ding. Push it up. I think if you could, can you push the?
Oh, sorry.
It's on the back.
Perfect.
Yeah, Rachel, thank you very much for all that. Forgive my ignorance. I understand the terminology in terms of, well, I know what graffiti is, but I've never come across the word tag in that context before. So what do you mean? What is the difference between normal graffiti and a tag?
So you may have seen the classic one around Frome for a while has been My Team. It's something that gets repeated and rolled out, and it's just like writing your initials on something. It's like saying my, a signature. This is my,
Okay, thank you.
And so generally it is a signature. The same people do the same tags.
Gotcha.
Sometimes you have a
Okay.
little crew in larger areas. It can work around nefarious gang activity. Police don't think that's happening here. So, we can only go by the intel. So therefore, the tags that you see really frequently are the same person going out.
Okay.
But also
you.
what does happen is people age out, or, people, well, or move on, move town, move what they're doing, change their perspective. And so therefore some tags are around for a little while. I'm saying this like I'm extremely knowledgeable. Obviously, this is just things that have been told to me. So
Okay, thank you. Gentleman at the back.
Not familiar with the microphone.
That's it. Perfect.
Working okay.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
If you introduce yourself, please, sir.
I've prepared a presentation sticking to the guideline between which I was given, which was 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm afraid it will cover some points already raised, but it's easier for me to go through the presentation as it is rather than skip over them. Good evening. I'm Paul Fine. I live at 7A Catherine Street near Badcocks. I really dislike the graffiti on the post box outside Bar Lottie and on the bus shelters on each side of Christchurch Street West, near the bottom of Weymouth Road. Some graffiti artists would not call them graffiti. They're tags. They're disliked by graffiti artists too. So how do we deal with the problem? I'm starting by saying how we shouldn't go about it. Firstly, it's no use asking the police to catch the people who do it. They're smart enough to avoid capture. I doubt that the police can afford to spend extra effort on catching them. The police have better things to do. Secondly, I don't think we should ask Frome Town Council Ranger to remove the tags. I guess this is expensive, and I would much rather the rangers spend their time improving our environment. Maybe more fun for the rangers too. And removing tags simply encourages the taggers to do it again. I catch buses at the bus shelters at the bottom of Weymouth Road regularly. When I'm waiting for a bus, I do what I can to remove the graffiti. Oh, sorry, tags. By scraping the paint off with my fingernails. This takes me no time at all. I'm waiting for the bus anyway. I could probably remove it more if I improved my technique. So this is what I suggest. The work of keeping Frome attractive begins with us, the inhabitants. We have organised litter picking groups and such like. So let's deal with the tags ourselves, as groups or as individuals. Let's not burden the Town Council, the Highways Authority, or Royal Mail with any but the impossible ones, like tags on bridges. Graffiti remover from Screwfix just costs £15, maybe a bit more. Safe and non-aggressive, it says. I've only just discovered this. Now going to move on. Viv Meadows is a friend of mine. She owns a fence on the left-hand side of the alleyway beside the Nunney Road Co-op. Viv isn't here, and I'm speaking on her behalf. The outside of the fence is accessible to people going up and down the alleyway. 5 years ago, the fence was being continually damaged and tagged by vandals. A friend of Viv's suggested painting a pair of eyes on the fence. People desist from antisocial behaviour if they feel they're being watched. That's why mirrors and reflective surfaces are installed in lifts. And taggers may be reluctant to tag a piece of artwork. It worked. The amount of tagging and damage was reduced. The next part of the fence, belonging to the co-op, continues to be damaged and tagged. So that's it. It's up to us to look after our town. And Frome Town Council have alternatives to simply erasing the tags. Last month, I wrote about graffiti. You can see it in my Substack blog, which is here. And the text of this presentation will appear on that blog too, including photographs of Viv's fence. My thanks to Viv and her friend for their help and introducing me to alternative methods of dealing with tagging. Thank you all for your attention and listening.
Oh, thank you, Paul. That was really thoughtful. Thank you very much. Interesting ideas. Okay. Anyone else would like to say something? Andy?
Andy Moore, councillor. I'm not an expert on this stuff. Forgive me if I get Tom Taff. I would say you're probably the graffiti expert in the room. But my understanding of tagging is that it's more of a sport. It's about getting your name, your moniker, your call sign, like when the bat signal goes up in the air, into the most obscure, random, strange places. So it's kind of like Where's Wally, but it's like an in-joke at the expense of everyone in the town. In New York, they used to put them on trains, break into train yards, and they used to go stand on rooftops and watch the trains go by and sort of congratulate each other on getting these tags in all these strange places. So there's a fundamental element of this. Yes, some of it will be mindless vandalism, But there's a fundamental element of tagging which has an element of sport to it, and it's a rebellious kind of sport. And I don't want to be a pessimist, but how do you beat that? Because the harder you try, the more fun it becomes. I might be wrong. Please correct me if I've got anything wrong.
Tom, tell us more about tagging, if you would. Thank you, Andy. That was a really good contribution. Is it Tom?
It is Tom,
Hi,
yeah.
Tom, yeah.
So,
Educate us into tagging.
so I'm a local artist, roots in graffiti. I was responsible for a lot of the tagging when I was younger, probably. But now I've made a career as a muralist, and I paint all over the country commercially, and like doing community projects with children and graffiti workshops in Bristol and stuff like that. I run the School of Graph and the Bristol Graffiti Workshop. So yeah, tagging is essentially part of the graffiti culture. It is how most artists start, by tagging. Andy's right, it is a rebellious sort of sport in a way. It's something for young bored people to do, to go out and write their name in as many places as possible, and then for each other's recognition, and this sort of points. Each one is a point in a way. But I understand that it is a problem and that it doesn't suit a small rural town like Frome. But I think there's ways of tackling it. I really like the idea of like the art trail on the green boxes. That could be really cool. Sort of redirecting the young people that might be responsible, giving them more opportunities to do creative stuff in a more like a better setting.
Can I ask a question, which is how do we find the young people without, by definition, if we want to find them and support them to do more artistic, creative things,
Yes,
how do you find?
Like only one secondary school in Frome, I guess most of them are going to be there. Yeah. And that because it is something that more younger people are going to do it, and that I like to say they'll grow out of it eventually.
Yeah, we heard from the police that they used to be able to go into school, show tags to teachers, and because everyone would tag their school books, the teachers would know. But because everything's online now, we're told that there isn't that sort of intel.
Right, yeah.
so
projects.
Yeah, to target the kids who might. Fair enough.
Because they're not going to come forward and say, yeah, it's me who's been doing it.
No.
Okay. Fiona online. Fiona?
Yeah, I just had a quick question to Tom, actually. It's so interesting to hear this. Thank you so much. Everyone who's spoken, it's really insightful. But it seems to be that there's only one dominant tagger in Frome. So if it's a game, who are they playing against? Because they're clearly winning if it's just them. Like, there's literally one tag on 90% of stuff. So it's just, is it one, how many people are we talking about here? Is it sort of one person? Is it a group? Yeah. Do you know anything?
No, I wouldn't want to speak on their behalf, but yeah, I think I know the one you mean, and I'd say it's probably a group of people. Consider it as my team.
Yeah.
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 And
So
also,
is it-
we're allowed to say what other ones they are, because Smoker or Smoky is one big one that's around town. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
It's Smacker, not Smoky. Smacker.
How do you know?
Well, I think I've cleaned it off. I don't know how many times, and I've got probably about 30 to 40 pictures of it on my own devices.
Okay. Sorry, Fiona, probably cut you off there.
No, it was just a question. It was just because the way you're framing it as a game makes complete sense. But I'm just wondering. I mean, essentially, they're playing against us. I'm guessing at this point because we keep cleaning it off, and so I guess it's I don't really have a point.
Steve?
Sorry, I'm just trying to work it out.
Thanks, Tom. Really interesting. Few people have said that if there is artwork, then the taggers don't tend to go over artwork. Is that the? I mean, from your experience, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but is that the case? I mean,
I'd say yeah, for majority, especially I think you got to distinguish the difference between like graffiti taggers and just like people with just like opportunists who found a spray can or just like they've done, because they're not going to repeat offend, whereas the taggers are like would see themselves as part of like the graffiti culture. They're the ones that are going to continue to do it. And
Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah, Frome Town Councillor. You said that you go often into, or you go to organisations where there are young people and you talk about your own past as a tagger and how you've built your career now into a successful one as a muralist. Is there scope to do that more locally around here? I mean, you said yourself there's only one secondary school and pretty captive audience. Would there be something that we could work with you on?
yeah, definitely. I'm doing a lot in schools at the moment. So I've just done Horrington School near Wales. I've got one booked in September in Northfield House. I've done like quite a bit for them in Northfield House.
And do you usually find people, kids, young people are receptive to hearing about other ways of doing things?
Get the spray can.
Brilliant. Well, I think there's something that we need to think about there then, isn't there?
And Philip, I know you've got a question, but Peter, did you want to just say something on that?
Yeah, Tom, it's very useful to hear what you've said about how we can reach out to young people. I was just going to mention that we have a children and young people's project officer in Melody Hunter Evans within our communities team, who works very closely with local schools and with Frome College. And maybe we can put her in touch with you with a view to seeing how we can get into the schools and share with young people in those schools some positive and constructive things that could be done that might begin to address the issue. So I just raised that, and certainly if you can leave us with your contact details, we can put you together with Melody.
Not via a tag though.
Philip?
Hi. A few years ago, I was asked to meet with Peter Travis to talk about buses. Little did I know that I'd become a graffiti removal expert with a mobile graffiti business, if I could set one up, in a very short space of time. I would probably say that out of everybody in this room, I cleaned more graffiti than anyone, not just off bus shelters, but other areas of town. I'd like to take a different perspective. I think we can sit and talk all night about the reasons for tagging and so on. I actually think that we're sending young people mixed messages. On the one hand, we're saying this is wrong. Actually, it's an offense. On the other hand, we're saying it's an expression of art. It's an expression of young people and it's rebellious. I get that. I absolutely get that. But I think if we keep going down the same avenue of trying to talk to young people in schools, trying to educate them, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, we'll never solve the issue of graffiti tagging. So I've got people waving at me.
Just to say, I don't think we have tried that yet. I know that we've
No, I'm not saying we. I mean, generally we. Having spoken to PCSOs, there was a project a few years ago, I can't tell you exactly when, where they did exactly that. I think it was the thing you were referring to, Rachel, about looking at books in schools and trying to find who might be responsible. And I think something happened down at the Cheese and Grain, boards were put up, people were invited to come along and experiment and play and what have you. And the PCO that I was talking to said, never again. He said, because the weeks afterwards, we just had loads of tagging around the town, right? So what I'm trying to say is what we need to do is look the other way. If we just leave the tagging and the graffiti where it is, that sends out completely the wrong message. Now, we saw the brilliant work, particularly that Mike does, about the resetting. We don't actually need to repaint every time we clean the graffiti. We don't. What we need to do is just get rid of the graffiti. And I know it's one of those circular battles that we're probably never going to win, as Andy said. But actually, if we just sit back as we have been doing, I have to say this, as we have been doing for quite a long time now, particularly away from the town centre, Impression is nothing's being done. No one's doing anything. And graffiti just breeds graffiti, just breeds graffiti. I had some friends over from Canada. We went for a walk through town from Toolengage into town through Keyford. I didn't prompt them. I didn't say anything at all. The one thing they commented on, apart from the quaint little houses, was the graffiti and the tagging. They thought it was terrible. You drive into town from any of the entrances coming into town, any of the main roads, one of the first things you see is tagging and graffiti. So we have to look at it in a completely different way. Some towns, what they do is they have a policy where they remove it within 48 hours. They don't reset, they just remove it. A lot of towns do have their graffiti policy, fly poster policy, and so on, and they can and they do fine. And I know certain institutions in Frome that have done that and still do it. If we sit back and, as it may seem to others, that we haven't done anything really, in terms of tackling this, it just sits there. It just gets worse, and it affects businesses, it affects people, it affects well-being, etc., etc., etc. So really, it's a multifaceted approach that I think has to be considered overall.
Thank you, Philip. Sarah?
I think that's exactly the point, Philip. It does have to be a multifaceted approach, but I think there's a big difference between some PCSOs going to try and talk to young people than, from somebody who's kind of from that background and has been there and done that and is, a bit more cool, if I can use the word. And, it's a bit different. I mean, yes, of course, young people are going to sit in school and look at PCSOs and go, whatever. And that's really not an approach. But I think you're right, and there are also some ideas that the gentleman behind me talked about. One thing that sprung to mind was how effective the hoedown team has been since we banned glyphosate in the town and told Somerset to bog off our weeds. And that's been a really successful programme and people love it. They get involved, they enjoy it. It's a day out, they drink tea, they hoe down, and it works really well. So a combination of all of these things, and your idea about, a group of people getting together, having a nice morning out with their anti-graffiti spray cans. But I don't think really comparing those kind of things to PCSOs going into schools and telling kids that graffiti is bad is...
Can I just come back on that? No, that's completely wrong. I just use that as an example, not that was it. I'm saying that's fine. And there should be people going into schools and talking about it. But this is where I think there is this tension, this dilemma of actually saying, don't do it, it's a crime, but actually it's really cool. So there is that, and it has to be done by people who are experts, people that know about this, right? What I'm saying is it's a multifaceted approach. But at the moment, the impression that's given out there is that nothing's being done, and therefore the graffiti just sits there. And that's why people are really annoyed. The gentleman was talking about the bus shelters at the bottom of Weymouth Road here. I clean those on the 23rd of April and the 5th of June. I do a route quite often, about once every 2 or 3 weeks around town, just looking at the bus shelters and cleaning them. And when you're talking about people, I'm going to have to go at some point. But talking about people helping and doing things, £5 charity shop rucksack, and in there I've got my graffiti removal kit. And it's not just going buying some, with all due respect, buying some remover. On some surfaces you can't remove it. It just won't come off.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Philip. Thank you. Rachel.
Well, I'm channeling my inner Rob, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think he really wanted it made known that it wasn't that Frome Town Council weren't doing anything, but they've moved to this reset position because there is no doubt that when they had the zero tolerance policy of, it's something would get graffitied and it would get removed. And this was only in the town centre, and it couldn't be on road signs because there are issues with using graffiti removal things on road signs.
I was going to mention that.
Only on the town in the town centre. And it was, without shadow of a doubt, a game. And they'd give Mike, he got a little name, and they would write messages to him along with a tag. So there is no doubt there is that gaming element. So yes, it's a all thingy.
Yeah, thank you.
It's
Just on that Rachel saying about what something that Rob had said. I was just going to
Oh, yeah.
clarify what that was. Is you can't use normal graffiti removing chemicals or sprays
Yeah.
on road signs because it removes their reflective quality.
Yeah.
So they have to be completely replaced, which obviously Somerset Council at the moment are reluctant to do.
However, we do know that Somerset Council have just agreed to do a route. Jane, do you know a bit more about the route?
Is it on? Yes. Yeah, we were a week or so ago, we were contacted by Somerset Highways. They had found some additional funding and they asked us to identify a route through one route through the town, which was most affected by graffiti on the road signs, and with a view to either cleaning them where they can, and if not, replacing them. And the route that Rob kindly went out and identified has got 27 signs along it that have been graffitied. I mean, that is a one-off. You know, if they go back and get graffitied again, then they're not going to be able to do that. But they have found some additional funding. She said they can't spend it all in Frome, but they know that there is a particular problem, and that's why they got in touch and offered to do that.
Thank you. Fiona online.
Yeah, I was also going to channel mine and Rob as well, actually, and say something very similar to what Rachel said. I think just again, Philip, I don't think it's fair to say that we've been sitting back. I think and not doing anything. I understand that that is possibly the impression given how quickly the tags are coming back. But we have, you know, I think over the last 3-4 years made it a real priority investing in the town centre and, you know, hiring Mike and beginning to do this. The problem is that we are fighting a losing battle, as Rachel said at the beginning, and this idea of it being a game actually has really helped me to think about this and to kind of get my head around it a bit more. But I think that, you know, we're also, if you look at the reality of it, that it, you know, 50 days just to do that 4 times a year, just in the tiny thing of the town centre, you know, we obviously can't even touch Somerset Council road signs, etc. There's lots that we can't do. So I also think we have to be realistic here. And I think, as everyone is saying, it has to be multifaceted. That yes, you know, I don't think we should stop cleaning it and stop doing the resets, because, you know, I think that we do need to do something. And I think also there's been some other really great ideas that have come up tonight. I really like the graffiti art trail that Rachel has proposed. I think that's a great idea, because I think it means that they're no longer blank canvases. I think it'd be interesting to see whether that works. But I think we do need to do lots of different things and kind of look at it a bit more holistically than perhaps just sort of cleaning it off every few weeks.
Although Philip, you do a great job on you do a lot of hard work on the bus shelters and everything. And so thank you for doing that, because of course you do it voluntarily and it is hard work. And just recently someone contacted me in Market Ward saying about a bus shelter, and within 24 hours, Philip had cleaned it. So thank you for what you do there, because it is very much appreciated. Okay, Steve MacArthur.
Right, just share some experience from the cheese and grain. I remember 10 years ago, it was quite a problem around our building. But I think it's been several years since anyone has tagged our building or put any graffiti on it at all. We have our response to the problem when it first arose, when we first said, "Oh, we've got to do something about this," because we're just about to spend £500,000 starting up the middle inside of the building. No, we can't have this. We actually committed a significant sum to cleaning off everything all at once in a day, the whole building. And then a policy of removing any tags within hours of them appearing. So no one who tags our building gets to see it again. It's removed. It's the first thing that happens. First thing early in the morning, the site is checked. It's been ages actually since we've had to do anything. But there was a period where we did have to do this. First thing that happened in the morning was a member of staff walks around the building, identifies the damage, and it's sorted immediately. And they stopped tagging. And they stopped graffitiing, because what's the point? Because you go there the next day and it's gone. Go there a few hours after you've done it and it's gone. So we were prepared to spend some serious money at the beginning, and then did this thing where there's pretty much an instant response. Now, I do appreciate what we've probably done is exported the tagging to other parts of the town. But I think I agree with Philip that it is the instant removal which is the key. I mean, we've done other things as well. I mean, we've actually got some. We've got a chap like you. I think. It wasn't. This chap comes along as a kid. They paint these great murals down the side of the building, the scruffy side. They do these murals. Nobody's painted over them. No, nobody's sprayed over those at all.
It was me and another graffiti artist.
Yeah, sorry. So nobody. There's not been a single stitch of paint on those things, on that what I would call genuine wall art. Yeah. Is it hard to know how much of a factor that is? Certainly the removal, I think, is the real key. That really works. And also we do lots of youth work anyway. We're spending £30,000 this year on youth work, and I think we're reaching kids who might do stuff like that. I don't know for sure.
I think it's because people respect the cheese and grain as a building. Because
no, I think it's because if you tag it, it's I think it was the place to do it, and until it's removed. You know, if it's removed instantly, you know, you just wasted your money, right? Or you wasted your shoplifting in Halfords. And I would finally say we did commit serious funds to it, and we make sure that we've got the resources to remove that stuff quickly.
Yep.
Because we respect the outside of our building, and we expect that, and so other people do too. And I think I agree with 90% of what the chap behind me said, but I would say that I think it is not unreasonable for public money to be spent on maintaining a decent built environment. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. We make nice parks, you know, so we pick up rubbish. So why not spend public money on cleaning graffiti? And you said it was like 20% of one post. That's not a huge investment, if you don't mind me saying.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Finally, one last point, I think, which is I do agree that it's got to be lots of different approaches, lots of different people involved, and particularly getting other institutions and businesses in Frome to do what we do, you know, and say, look after your property. I know you haven't got enforcement powers, but I think that really is the key.
Well, this has come up before at the town centre meetings about businesses taking pride in outside of their buildings, such as sweeping, weeding, and removing graffiti could be one of them. Yeah, push the button up. Yeah. If you could just introduce yourself, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm a resident and I live near Welsh Mill. And I totally agree with all that's been said. I think in places like countries like France, they do instant removals, and it's what's the point, you know, coming back? And I just feel very sad, you know, people's property, people's fences. And I've got some Japanese visitors coming, and I know it's going to be quite an interesting reaction from them. I think the council has done sterling work. You know, I'm not saying you haven't, and you've obviously, but you haven't got enough people doing this. And when we've talked about this before, it's been a case of how can we volunteer and get involved? But it's been, oh, well, the chemicals are difficult and you really need some training. And I mean, is there a way that we can actually get to do this? You know, you're quite right. You know, people of Frome should be part of this.
I don't know, maybe Philip is an expert in removal.
I think, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the gentleman in black, your name. Tom, sorry. Thanks, Tom. Tom will correct me on what I'm about to say next. I think I've narrowed it down to sort of 3 types of materials used in tagging. One is almost like a sort of a chalky, it feels like like a paint marker, and you can literally, once it's dry, you can literally just wipe that off. In my portable bag, £1 from a local store, elbow grease. It comes off just with a cloth. You don't even need a scourer, quite easy. The second group are either painted or sprayed on, but what they tend to do is dry and flake. So those, a scraper or even a dry scourer, as long as you're not scratching the surface, because some of the surfaces, particularly bus shelters, are either glass or they're perspex, that they'll come off like that. The ones that are really tricky are the spray, and I don't know what the solvent is. It's changed. Those you do need a graffiti remover, and sometimes it needs 2 applications, basically spraying one area, leave that while you do. I would recommend wearing a mask with those, because you're in a confined space. You probably may have seen in some bus shelters where there's this ghosting effect of writing and so on and dripping coming down. Well, those I think were solvents in the sprays some time ago. They've been there for a long time, and they actually etch into the glass or the perspex. Those are difficult to move. If people spray lampposts, you can't get rid of it. I haven't found a way of getting rid of it yet. On road signs, you mentioned the road sign that you've got the picture of, Rachel, at Froomfield. I cleaned that. That took me about 20 minutes. And you can clean the plasticky reflective bit quite easily. It doesn't remove anything. I don't know why people think that it does. It doesn't. But what it does do, when it hits the metal, the spray hits the metal, it goes into the metal surface and you can't. Okay. So I get the idea of volunteers. I get the idea of the people working and doing it, but it's not just a simple job. It's it's tricky.
Rachel, have you got some insight into that?
Well, again, imagine I'm Rob. His insight is that there would be lots of cost training that would be required in order for us to have a team of people going out and about. And as you've identified, there's all sorts of different things. There's different reflective coatings. It would be, I think it is something that some of our councillors are quite keen on. I know that Nick is also quite keen on exploring this, but there are certainly quite a few barriers that would have to be overcome.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the allotted time and discussion. Andy, do you still want something to say? And then Mark? Anyone else wanting to say anything? Just give me a wave. Okay, Andy?
So yeah, just to reiterate again, I think, Steve, you touched on something which is sort of like a behavioural psychology hack thing, where again, it's coming back to the root of this. It's not about the love of the spraying or the love of thinking you're doing art. It's the sport of it. So if Tom goes into a school and says, guys, this is really lame, they might sit there and go, you know what, he's right, this is really lame. If the PCSOs and police go into the school and say, guys, this is really not good and it's lame, it's game on. Game on. You are making it better for them. You're making it better for them. And the game is to tell your friends, oh, keep your eyes open here, keep your eyes open here, check it out. I got that on there last night, snuck out the house, whatever, And the more, it's such a difficult one, because you crack down on it and it's prestige. You're making legends amongst kids, in their little circles. But it's such a difficult one. But I think the idea that Steve was touching upon, if it's there and then it's gone, it's there and then it's gone. How many times can you say, guys, check this out, and then it's gone and you look like an idiot and you think, right, I'm not going to do there again. The game, the nucleus of this thing is getting it on there and it's staying there, or being on a high building in a nook or a cranny. Okay. It's actually kind of dangerous as well. People scale buildings and try and get it in all kinds of it's like Red Bull. They keep going further and further with their stunts. And one day someone's going to get hurt as well. But yeah, the nucleus of it is kind of like a game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Mark?
Let the gentleman over there speak first, and I'll just do a bit of a summary, really.
Okay, gentleman over there, please could you introduce yourself using the mic? Here's a microphone. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Roger Hammersley, a resident. I think the idea of decorating street cabinets and things like that as a community art project is an excellent idea. And that way, you get over the idea of it as a never-ending project. In other words, you don't have to keep cleaning it up if it's already decorated. Then it will probably not be graffitied over again. So if it's dealt that way, it seems quite positive. There were a couple of examples I could think of where, when entering Frome, there are some pretty big examples of tagging. One is the wall of the old chip shop building at the junction of Saxonville and Church Street.
And the other is the building opposite that as well. And they're particularly obvious for people who are travelling into town down Vicarage Street as well. So
Yeah.
I just wondered if any thoughts.
I think they're privately owned, aren't they?
They are privately owned. We had
Yeah.
talked to the landlords of the buildings, and I believe that the one on King's Street that points out, I believe he does have plans as he's just opened his business.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, the other one I think is behind the ETB Auto Centres on Vicarage Street as well. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I know the ones you mean. I walk past
Just
them.
one other quick question is, I know we're encouraged to sort of report graffiti through the Avon Somerset website, police website. How effective is that? I mean, do the town council pay a lot of attention to that? Do you communicate with the police over that?
Yeah.
The database?
Okay, yeah, no, it's a good question. Rachel?
Yes, so the police and Rob and Katie, our town centre coordinator, meet with the police, is it once every 3 weeks or 4 weeks? So they do, they are in close contact. They obviously talk about other things as well, besides graffiti. But yes, basically, if there is a blip in the data, apparently modern policing responds to data. So even if the expectation is that they won't be able to do anything, they will be able to get resource to support things perhaps like community projects, like Tom going into schools, or, you know, so report. The more people report, the more resource will be able to be put towards it. And in the case of the police, it's not always, you know, feet on the street. It may be more money for youth projects, or it may be, you know, they're not as linear as they certainly used to be, and obviously can't be because there's not as many of them.
Yeah, and the police have said if you stop reporting it, it'll just, but they won't do anything about it. So it has to keep being reported.
I think
as tedious as that
with
might sound.
the website is that it's not that easy to report.
Yeah, it's been raised, hasn't it?
You have to give a location, understandably, that's fine. You've got to give a description of the graffiti, including the size, when it occurred, the date it was added, if you know when that was, and the time it was added as well. You can upload images, but really it's a case of one image per report under the circumstances. So it's not the easiest thing to report on through that.
I think that has been raised actually at the town centre meeting, wasn't it? So yeah, the police are aware of that. No, thank you, Roger. Mark.
Mark Dorrington, councillor and this year's mayor. I share your cynicism in reporting, but it must be done. The other day I saw somebody tagging something on a Sunday morning in Trinity when I was walking through. I yelled after them. They ran off. A short chase ensued where he got away. But I did report that immediately via the website and uploaded the photograph of the tag that he put on there and gave a description of the individual. I had a message back the next day saying, thanks for your report. We're not going to do anything with this because there's no chance of catching this person. But it's now logged and it is on their system and it must be reported. This is criminal damage and we should be reporting this. It's the damage to somebody's property, whether it's council property or private individuals, and it costs them money to get things done. But I do like Mr. Fry's suggestion about having a local volunteer group. We do this with the Litter Warriors in Frome, those of us who've been involved in that, where Litter Warriors will get a posse together and tackle a certain area where there's a lot of litter. We could look at enhancing the capabilities of that. And I will, when our environment manager, I'm also responsible for open spaces in the town, or lead councillor for open spaces. When our environment manager comes back from leave, I will be speaking to him about that, because something I want to do in this year as mayor is to instill some sort of sense of pride in the town. I think we are letting it go a bit. I want people to, you know, just clear the weeds from outside their own house. I know we can't spray them anymore. Just things like things as simple as that. It's the old New York motto I keep thinking about, the broken window syndrome, when Mayor Giuliani, before he went mad, came up with this thing that if you don't fix the broken windows, that just leads to bigger crime. And he threw all the resources at dealing with very, very petty crime, which this is, but it kept the lid on it and didn't lead to anything else. So I think the idea, this is a very, very much a multifaceted approach, very much in a multi-agency approach. And I really want to get something done this year on it, both as mayor and as a town centre councillor. So any suggestions that are going, gratefully received, and I would like to end the year with a bit of improvement in the appearance of the town.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Sorry, just quickly, gentleman at the back. This is our last question on this, unless anyone is
Hello.
looking at me, which I don't think.
Hello, Mark Hood, resident. I completely agree with what Mark said. Philip is doing a magic job, I would say. However, if I was to go do the same, we're all just like vigilantes almost, aren't we? So I think what Mark has said about actually forming some kind of action group would be great, where we can look at the legalities of perhaps cleaning stuff off of utility companies' things. You know, we might get in more trouble than the taggers even, I don't know. I'm very keen to start getting rid of this graffiti because it is an absolute eyesore.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone's contribution, and it'll be a conversation, I'm sure, that continues. Rachel.
Can I just say, if anybody's interested in staying in touch, if you could write your email on this piece of paper, that would be really useful.
And check out Paul's Substack.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we are now moving on to the next agenda item, which is to decide how we'll develop a new communications strategy. And it will be Rachel.
It will be. I'm really sorry. It's quite a lot of me tonight.
It's okay.
But...
We like you.
Okay, so communications strategy review. This paper is about the development of a new communications strategy. The idea is that this will align with our current council plan, because we've changed enormously as an organisation over the last few years, as has the comms picture. As a team, we are delivering major events, leading significant projects, managing markets, engaging with residents in both person and through My Froome, and working with partners across the town. So our role has evolved, and our communications definitely need to evolve with it. Good communication isn't simply about promoting events or posting on social media. It's about helping residents understand what we do, why we do it, and how they can be part of it. So really, importantly, and key to this paper, communications shouldn't just belong solely to the communications team. All of us, staff, councillors, every conversation with a resident, every project we deliver contributes to how people experience Frome Town Council. So whether we're planting trees, stewarding an event, responding to an email, or chairing a meeting, we are all communicating who we are as an organisation. So rather than us sitting down and writing a communication strategy, I'm proposing a collaborative workshop that brings staff and councillors together to look at a few questions. Broadly, those are who we are, what are our values, why do we exist, what stories aren't we telling well enough, and what do we want residents to be able to say about us in 3 years' time. Really importantly, this won't just be our own view. Last summer, we asked residents how well we communicate with them, and those findings will also help inform the discussion. Good communication isn't just about what we want to say. It's about listening, learning, and responding to how our messages are being received. The workshop will provide foundations for a concise communication strategy that reflects the whole organisation, that aligns with the council plan, and will be simple and something that we can all own. The proposal then is to hold the workshop in September, develop the strategy during the autumn with opportunities for staff and councillor feedback, and then bring it back to council in November for adoption. Any questions?
Any questions, Rachel? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one from Andy Jones.
So just when I was reading through this, my initial reaction was actually, if this isn't going to be adopted until November, this administration then only has about 6 months to live until potentially there's a whole new administration coming in with a whole raft of changes. Having had various conversations about that, I have been convinced that actually it is worth getting something on paper by November, even if a subsequent administration chooses to update or amend that. At least we've got a good start in place. So you have my support.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, so shall we look at the recommendations? Oh yeah, thanks, Laura. Okay, so the recommendations are to begin work towards the new communication strategy and align it with the council plan, to deliver the staff councillor workshop as laid out in this report, and to note the time frame laid out whilst acknowledging that this may change. And if everyone's happy to take these as one recommendation. Yep, okay. Oh, Andy's come looking for his red sign. Okay. So can I get someone to propose? Anne Hills, and second, Anita Collier. Bonus viewing.
That's unanimous.
Lovely. It wasn't wasted. It's good. Okay, thank you very much.
That's
happy with that.
Happy with that? Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Now in
Yeah.
another agenda point, we've got Rachel.
It's me again. But this time I'm going to be super quick.
Verbal.
Laura, if you could put the next slide up. So it is verbal, but I had recognised that I was going to be talking quite a lot. So there's some things to read, and then you'll be really pleased to know once I've said my very small bit, Miles has made us a little film, some pretty pictures to look at. But broadly, this slide is to demonstrate that that the events really do fit nicely into the council objectives as per the events working group, and so it all does seem to think that it's fitting in. Anyway, recently everybody will have noticed we have been super busy. So alongside our projects, our general projects, the team has continued to support and deliver an incredible varied programme of events over the last few months, hence the verbal update rather than the actual report, and my apologies for that. One of the things I'm particularly proud of is that actually many of the events that we have been taken up with recently aren't our events at all. They're community-led initiatives that we've been able to support through communications, event management, stewarding, road closures, advice, equipment, practical assistance, and in the case of our parks and open spaces, sometimes simply permissions. I say simply, it's a lot of paperwork, but basically helping others make great things happen. It really feels like it is the Frome Town Council way, and long may that continue. Our events programme has also continued to make significant contribution to the council plan as per demonstration, working alongside team members, community organisations, volunteers and local partners. We've created opportunities for people to come together, connect and celebrate what makes Frome unique. This programme has also supported a thriving town by bringing people into the town centre, increasing footfall, animating public spaces and strengthening our reputation for being a vibrant place to live. So through delivering and supporting activities that celebrate nature, creativity and culture, we've encouraged greater appreciation for our environment, inspired environmental action and fostered a stronger sense of pride and belonging within the community. This collaborative approach enables us to maximise the impact of our resources, strengthen partnerships, empower communities to deliver projects that align with the council's strategic priorities. When put together, they all these events really do demonstrate how that activity can be powerful tools for helping deliver the council plan. They can improve well-being, support the local economy, activate public spaces, encourage participation, and help residents feel more connected to the community and us, the town council. Laura, shall we give it a go? Here's some nice pictures. I'll be quiet now. There we go. That's your lot. And that's just to say that that little lot was just from our last community and place. So, last weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rachel. And those events have been brilliant. Great picture there of Mark with the bird. Yeah, great. Okay, lovely. Right, moving to the final point on the agenda, which is a review of the community engagement and development, marketing communications, climate and town centre work programmes. And Matt is going to be speaking?
Yep.
Yeah. Want to come up, Matt, or?
Oh, yeah, great. Do I have a clicker? Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Matt, the Climate Action Lead at Frome Town Council. Tonight I've... You're not on.
It might not be working.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. I am Matt, the Climate Action Lead at Frome Town Council. So I've got 10 minutes to give a quick update on where we've got to with our work programme. I'm going to start, as I always do, with a quick climate update and then run through what we're working on at the moment. So I'm sure everyone is very aware that it has been hot, but I think it's worth just checking the stats, and the Met Office is publishing the new data which shows that this summer has been particularly hotter than previous years, with various records that have been broken. The first red extreme heatwave warning and a record 8 days with temperatures above 34.
That might be you dying. You might have to switch to the...
So it's a... Hello. Is that working? Yep. So it's an interesting time to be working on climate, because often it's hard to get people to talk about climate change, and suddenly when there's a heat wave, people want to talk about it, which in some ways is good, but obviously it's very sobering and we have a lot of work to do. What always rattles around in my head is that although it's shocking and surprising how hot it is now, these are probably the coolest summers we're going to live through. So that really sharpens the mind on the planning that we have to do, because so long as greenhouse gas emissions keep going into the atmosphere, the driver is on that it'll keep getting hotter. So engagement is always a big part of what we do, and that is at the levels of big town-wide engagement events, as well as the smaller pop-ups and face-to-face and just providing an information service. In terms of the big events that we've done in the last 6 months, we did the People's Emergency Briefing, the film screening that was at the Cheese and Grain, which was incredibly, really, we were going to do it in the chamber. We were expecting we might have 80 people or so. We were so inundated that we went for the biggest venue in town. We think there were 330 people there. And I think that really speaks to the fact that climate remains an incredibly important issue for people, and people do show up in big numbers for these events. The wildlife parade was phenomenal, and that was really interesting to engage new audiences with climate and nature going via a different angle. So we prepared teaching packs that went to all the first schools, and we know that all those children are connected to families and their parents, and we feel like we were reaching a new audience there, and the attendance at the parade was really encouraging. And then we have ongoing pop-ups and meetings and smaller events all the time, and mainly that's via the Healthy Home project. We have a new Green Directory launched. Thank you very much, Sarah, for holding that up. If you haven't seen it, I've brought some. Please take one away with you. It's really useful and landing well with people. I think we use the same photo there, Rachel. But you get a sense there of the numbers of people in the Cheese and Grain for the film screening, and more than half of the people that came for the film stayed afterwards for the facilitated workshops. So that was really good too, and a real opportunity to find out what people are thinking about, and for us to hone our strategy. And a similar photo here of the wildlife parade just as it began, coming down the hill to Boyles Cross in a similar way to the lantern parade. And then, of course, because it was so hot, we had to make plans for that. And Rachel had the genius idea that we should go to the woodland area behind the Cheese and Grain for a gathering and speeches. Sarah's incredible speech was there. And that was really brilliant. In some ways, that was the best bit of it. It was really nice for people to be together, and lots of people were saying how what a great community experience they had. So that was really good, and I think people went away really taking on the nature connection message, which is brilliant and something that we want to build on. So now I want to just talk a bit about Healthy Homes, and I'm sure people remember that this was part of the Green and Healthy Frome programme, and so ran for 3 years as part of that. And we found that we were speaking to people in Frome who need support on either via the health angle or on their homes, their quality of life, the cost of living crisis. And it's been really excellent. It's been reviewed very thoroughly by the evaluation process that was presented in the last council meeting, and there's also learnings and short summaries which we can share. But we're really confident that we're reaching parts of Frome that need our help, and we're helping people in ways that helps their bottom line. It makes their homes work better. It achieves health outcomes, and people are better off as a result of the interventions. The 3 main areas of work is energy advice and support, and this can often be for people that are renting. They might not own their accommodation or necessarily have big budgets, but learning how to use appliances differently or draft proofing, small interventions can make a big difference, and access to grants and all sorts of other support as well. And we have a team of energy champions to help with that. Retrofit assessments tend to be more for people that own their homes and have bigger budgets and might be looking at a refurbishment. But it's incredibly important for us in Frome that the housing stock keeps becoming more energy efficient. And this is a really interesting way to understand the performance of the housing stock and help people as they want to address those things. We had been seeing our solar work as quite separate. We've branded it Solar and Beyond. And what we're finding is all these conversations, whether we're talking to people about energy efficiency or home renovations or putting solar on the roof, these conversations always overlap. And so it's made sense that we all link up, and in many cases are introducing to people across the team. I have some very in-depth slides now from Caroline, who's been very diligently working on this. I'm not going to drill into the detail, but needless to say, please talk to either me or Caroline about it if people would like to find out more. But in terms of just sort of skirting the top line of the areas of work, with energy advice, volunteers and our members of staff will do home visits. There's around town. Often they're very. We've been working to really make sure that we're capturing and demonstrate impact. With the retrofit support, initially we were doing that with Sally Richards doing really in-depth reports. Now we outsource that to CSE, who do lighter touch home retrofit supports. But what we found is we knew that a lot of people knew that they should do something with their home, but weren't sure what it should be. And with Caroline doing follow-up meetings and talking to people, a lot of people just need a bit of support or advice or encouragement to actually take that step of moving money out of savings and doing something to their home, which in many cases may pay back in a way that was better than just having money in a savings account. And with solar, we have Will Reynolds, who's our renewable energy coordinator, and he's been talking with homes and a lot of interest around people putting solar on the roofs. And of course, with the global situation and the price of oil always going up, that's a major kicker, and people want to talk about it. But also, we're looking at new community solar options. Also talking to businesses, including some large bits of Marston Trading Estate, and hoping we'll get some new, bigger solar projects soon on roofs.
Matt, can I just ask you on that last slide?
Please do.
You mentioned Green Open Homes launching in November. Is that the project that I think it is?
I think it probably is. Green Open Homes has happened before in Frome. I think that might have been in Anna Francis's time. Yeah, it was a really it was a big project with a brochure. I think there might have been sort of 50 homes in there. Green Open Homes is a thing now, and there is an organisation called Green Open Homes who can support us doing it. And the basic idea is that a lot of people are interested in air source heat pumps, solar panels, better insulation, whatever it is. But what they really want to do is go into a home that's had that done and check it out for themselves before making the investment. So we're looking at doing that in autumn when it gets cold and people are thinking about it, and having somewhere between 5 and 10 houses open that people can go and visit. This slide just gives an idea of some of the numbers of what's been happening in the time since Green and Healthy Frome ended. And needless to say, Caroline's been very busy with lots of home visits and the Energy Champions as well. We've also been using this time just to review what we're doing, what's working. We know that there were parts of what we were doing in Green and Healthy Frome that we're not going to continue. And we're constantly challenging ourselves to make sure, are we speaking to the people that most need support? And really kind of going back to basics on that front. The key priorities for us are to find funding. As it stands, it isn't guaranteed that healthy homes will be funded going forward. So that's what we're looking at, and we've got quite a few options on the table, a couple of which I'll speak about shortly. Data and impact, it was quite a challenging part of the Green and Healthy Frome evaluation, that there was so much data, it was very complicated, it really had to be honed and pulled together. And the consultants that did that presented in the last council meeting, did an incredible job of that. So we've really been honing, are we collecting the right data, are we keeping track? And we're confident that we're doing that with the new spreadsheets. And Caroline's been looking after that very well. So we're going to keep doing that. It's obviously absolutely vital that we keep track of what's happening in the housing stock and how we can best support homes become more energy efficient. Partner engagement, key stakeholders have always been completely central to this work. We've been working for years with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, based in Bristol, who do incredible work. And in many cases, we'll hand cases to them that they can support people with accessing funds or routes to grants or more technical support. The Centre for Energy Equality run the Fairer Warmth app, which our energy champions use. So that relationship is really important too. Freeco, of course, has always been very close to Frome Town Council, more and more with Somerset Council, which is brilliant, and Designability. And it's through this partner relationships that we're seeing that the next bid will be likely. So lots of conversations and planning together and looking for future funding options. So moving on to climate adaptation, we have a adaptation plan which has been back and forth with our key partner, Somerset Wildlife Trust. They gave us a giant check at the River Festival, which was for £1,000 for community projects, which has gone to various projects in Frome doing climate adaptation. We want to get this up onto My Frome fairly soon, and we're going to create a climate action of the platform, and it feels like that will be a really good way to get further engagement on it. And of course, with the extreme heat, that's really focused minds, and people want to know where are the cool spaces in town, what are we doing about increasing shade. A lot of people are asking about more street trees, so there's a lot to think about there, and a lot that goes beyond can do, and interesting conversation. A walking tour is planned. Nat, who was at the Somerset Wildlife Trust, who worked with us on the adaptation workshop last May, seconded to Somerset Council, which is a really exciting opportunity. So she's there, and she's sort of mobilising people who are going to Frome and seeing what we're doing here. So quite a lot happening on that front. Then on the funding front, we're really keen that the climate action work is better resourced. It's been a very interesting transition going from the Green and Healthy Frome era when that we had this big lottery funded project, and there are budget for a consultant supporting us. Redress Fund, which looks like a pretty good fit for our energy and energy efficiency work. So we're preparing a bid for that. We've got a call coming up on that front. By thinking, but right when I started, we did a big workshop in this room looking at a Nature Town bid. And we're looking again if there might be some funding via that route too. So we're sort of, combining very specifically looking at what we're doing and pots available with also new opportunities that might be out there. That's it. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Matt? Matt, thank you. Steve?
Yeah, hi Matt. Thanks for that. Great. Good to see what's going on. Just going back to your sort of first few slides about how hot it's been. I know it's not in this year's work program, but have we thought about how to sort of work around rainwater harvesting and sort of getting, keeping rainwater and what we can do with rainwater once we've harvested it and stuff like that? Obviously it hasn't rained here for about a month or maybe even longer, but during the winter, January, February, March, it didn't stop raining. And I'm guessing, I'm not a climate expert, I'm guessing that's going to be the future for us.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely huge point. Right when I started and I was taken on a ranger tour, which was brilliant and really interesting. Ranger Mark was saying to me about how they feel that the seasons are switching, that you get a rainy season and a dry season. And it's isn't it? That the winter was so wet and the summer so dry. So I think, yeah, capturing that rainwater is absolutely key. And as I'm sure you know, that has benefits for keeping the river clean as well.
Okay, sorry.
And actually, I had this exact conversation with Alistair yesterday when he was down at the old Loop building because they're having some work examinations done underneath. And apparently, there used to be a water collecting facility inside, but it led us on to a conversation about how many opportunities there would be on some of our shared buildings to have water butts either inside. I mean, obviously there's going to be costs involved in redirecting things, but there's definitely scope, I think, for filtering some of the guttering down on some of the buildings. I've talked to Steve at the Cheese and Grain about this as well, because that's another building where we should, we've got the solar panels. We now should be looking at ways that we can start saving water there as well. So I think it's a brilliantly salient point and definitely something that we should pick up on, Matt.
Yeah, there was a presentation from Wessex Water. I think you were there, weren't you? And they were talking about grey water and stuff like that, which we've never done in this country, but elsewhere around the world, they use grey water systems for like toilet flushing and stuff like that. Now, obviously, we're a long way from that, but it's got to be aspirational, I'd have thought.
And actually, this building itself, I mean, there's got to be ways that we could utilise some of the rain when we ever get rain. I mean, it is just a question of looking at how the guttering works and putting some water butts around. Your face is face of horror there, Rachel, but.
Only because the state of the guttering and what leads into water is a massive anomaly, but definitely
Something we can
yeah.
talk about for
Yes.
sure. Anomaly is a good, was it not a euphemism?
Yeah. Okay. Presumably everyone has read the report that came with the agenda. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? No. Well, if everyone's happy, we'll draw this meeting to a close. The next meeting will be on 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of October, when it will be raining at Frome Town Hall. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everyone.